All right, ready to get into it? We're going deep on something you deal with every single day: productivity.
Uh-oh, not another one of those time management lectures, is it?
No, we're going way beyond the typical tips and tricks. We're cracking the code, looking at how it's truly measured and what really drives it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Where are we starting?
Well, you sent over a chapter from a productivity textbook.
Ah, yes, that one.
And honestly, I gotta say, after reading it, I started seeing productivity everywhere. Like, it's the hidden engine behind so much of what we do.
Yeah, you're right. It's like a secret language we don't even realize we're speaking.
Exactly. So, whether you're at work, in a meeting, or just curious about how things tick, get ready for some aha moments because we're going deep.
Deep dive time. I like it.
Yeah.
Let's start with a classic definition. Productivity. The ratio of output to input. Basically what you produce compared to what you put in.
Sounds simple enough.
Right. But the devil's in the details, and that's where it gets fun.
So, if we're just looking at one input, like how many hours someone works, that's what's called single factor productivity, right?
You got it. And it can be kind of misleading.
How so?
Well, think of it this way. The textbook uses this example of a bottle factory.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Just because everyone's clocking in the same hours doesn't mean they're making the same number of bottles.
Right, so just measuring how long someone's at work doesn't tell the whole story if you want to increase how much they actually produce.
There could be other stuff going on, other factors.
Which brings us to multi-factor productivity.
Bingo! We're adding more pieces to the puzzle now. Instead of just labor hours, we're looking at, say, the materials, maybe energy use.
So in our bottle factory, we're talking about how much glass they use, how much it costs to run those machines, all that stuff.
Exactly. But wait, there's more.
There's got to be a way to measure all the factors, right? Not just a few.
Of course. All factor productivity is the big kahuna. It uses the dollar value of all inputs and outputs. Gives you the widest lens.
Sounds comprehensive, but probably pretty complex to calculate.
Yeah, but it's powerful for analyzing the big picture. The textbook actually goes through a whole example. A company producing 10,000 units of something.
Ah, yes. Units of something. The mystery product. But I get it. Concrete examples make it way easier to understand.
And then they break down all the costs, labor, materials, even overhead, which people often forget about.
You know, I used to think overhead was just a boring accounting term, but reading this chapter, it hit me differently.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, it's like rent on your apartment. You don't see it directly in, say, a finished product, but it's a huge chunk of the overall cost.
Great analogy. There's all those behind-the-scenes expenses, rent, utilities, administration stuff that keeps the lights on, but isn't directly making the product.
And if those costs go crazy, it doesn't matter how fast your workers are on the assembly line, your overall productivity takes a hit.
You're getting it. It's all connected. Speaking of connections, want to try a little challenge?
Hit me with it. I'm feeling like a productivity detective now.
All right, so there's this exercise in the book. It's about a company making shopping carts. They decide to upgrade their equipment to reduce labor.
Classic productivity move. Less manual work seems like a no-brainer.
You'd think so. And they give all the data for both the old and new systems, labor costs, output per hour.
Okay, we could calculate their labor productivity, but I'm sensing a plot twist here.
You're sharp. Here's the thing. Even with the fancy new equipment, output per hour only increased a tiny bit.
Hold on. Why wouldn't it shoot way up? Was the machine a dud?
It shows why focusing only on labor can be tricky. Maybe the new machine, while needing fewer workers, isn't actually much faster. Or maybe there's a bottleneck somewhere else, like getting materials to the machine.
So they reduced one input labor, but something else became the limiting factor.
Precisely. Like a traffic jam, one stalled car messes up the whole flow, even if there are fewer cars overall.
Makes sense. So to see the full picture, we need that all-factor productivity view.
You got it. Like taking an x-ray of the whole operation, bottlenecks and all. But I think our listeners are ready for a real-world scenario now. What do you think?
Oh, I bet they're craving it. Bring it on.
All right, picture this. You're the manager at a cable manufacturing company.
Okay, I'm putting on my hard hat, ready to inspect.
A textbook lays out this whole case study, materials, costs, you name it.
Ooh, I love a good case study. Let's see if we can boost their productivity.
So you're walking the factory floor. What jumps out at you? What could be better?
Well, first things first, gotta look at the workers. Are they well-trained? Do they know the equipment?
Good point. And are they engaged? Or just going through the motions?
Yeah, that matters too. Like that saying happy workers are productive workers.
Totally. What about the workspace itself? Is the layout efficient? Can people find what they need easily?
So we're not just talking about the people, but also the flow of the whole operation.
Exactly. And what about waste? Any way to reduce scrap material?
This is where those process improvement things come in, right? Like lean manufacturing, finding ways to cut out unnecessary steps.
You got it. And of course, we can't forget about the machines themselves.
Are they running smoothly? Properly maintained? Maybe they need an upgrade?
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. So many factors affecting productivity.
And the textbook talked about tracking it over different time frames. Daily, monthly, yearly.
Right. That way you can spot trends, see if you're improving, catch problems early.
It's like having a dashboard for your whole operation.
Exactly. But you know what really struck me in this chapter?
What's that?
They talked about all these factors that affect productivity. And it's not just about numbers.
Like what?
Stuff like company culture, how people communicate.
Oh, yeah, the human element. Can't forget about that.
Right. If people feel comfortable sharing ideas, taking risks, that's huge.
And it all comes down to leadership, too. Do managers encourage that kind of environment? Or are they micromanaging everything?
Huge impact. I remember reading about Google's 20% time policy.
Where they let employees work on their own projects.
Yeah. Sounds counterintuitive, but it led to some of their biggest innovations.
So giving people freedom can actually boost productivity in the long run.
It's like we've been focusing on tuning up the engine, but forgot about the driver.
And a skilled, motivated driver is going to get you way further than a burnt-out one, no matter how fancy the car is.
Exactly. And these principles apply everywhere, not just in a factory. Think about healthcare.
Yeah. How do you even measure productivity in a hospital?
It could be the number of patients treated or how efficient surgeries are.
And those same factors apply training, technology, teamwork.
Absolutely. And a supportive environment makes a huge difference.
What about education? How do you measure productivity there?
Student outcomes, how much they're learning.
And that's influenced by teacher quality, resources, the whole school culture.
It all comes back to creating environments where people can thrive.
So productivity isn't just about squeezing out more work. It's about setting people up for success.
It's about understanding that people are at the heart of it all.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to productivity.
It's a shift in mindset for sure.
You know, this whole deep dive has really changed how I think about productivity.
Oh, yeah. How so?
I used to think it was all about, like, cramming as much as possible into every minute.
A hustle mentality.
Yeah, but now I see it's way more nuanced than that.
It's about working smarter, not just harder.
And honestly, I realized I've been doing it all wrong.
Really? What do you mean?
I was so focused on the output, checking things off my to-do list, that I totally neglected the input side, the things that actually give me energy.
It's easy to get caught up in the busyness and forget to take care of ourselves.
It's like trying to run a marathon without training or eating right. You'll just burn out.
Exactly. Sustainable productivity is about finding that balance between pushing yourself and taking breaks.
So it's not about being a robot. It's about being a human who can actually perform well consistently.
Well said. And that means paying attention to all areas of life, not just work.
Like, are we getting enough sleep? Are we eating healthy? Managing stress?
It's all connected. It's like that all-factor productivity idea, but applied to our own lives.
Makes sense. We need to look at all the inputs that affect our well-being, not just the outputs.
And that includes things like setting boundaries, minimizing distractions.
Oh, yeah. Those notifications can be killer.
Right. We got to be intentional about how we spend our time and energy.
One thing that stuck with me was the idea of having a workspace that actually supports productivity.
Your environment makes a huge difference.
I used to think a messy desk was like a sign of creativity, but now I realize it was just stressing me out.
Clutter can be a huge distraction.
Yeah.
Natural light, even the right music can help.
So what are some things people can do to actually apply these ideas?
Well, first, just become aware of your own patterns. When are you most focused? What drains your energy?
Track your time. Figure out what your biggest distractions are.
Exactly. Once you know your strengths and weaknesses, you can start experimenting.
Find what works for you. No one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
And we got to remember, productivity is just a tool.
It's a means to an end.
It should help us live better lives, not be the goal in itself.
It's about using our time and energy wisely so we can focus on what truly matters.
This has been eye-opening. I'm definitely going to rethink my own habits.
Me too. It's a constant process of learning and improving.
So for everyone listening, take a look at your own work, your life, and ask yourselves.
What are your biggest productivity roadblocks? What small changes can you make?
And remember, it's about progress, not perfection.
Every step you take towards being more intentional is a win.
This deep dive has been fantastic. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. It's been a great conversation.
And for everyone listening, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of your own potential.